3 minutes in the morning and just be thankful for the pillow, the sheets, that you have a roof over your head, the little things. And you automatically will get a little smile on your face. Your cat, your dog. Gratitude instantly shifts your state to thankfulness.
Like, you can change right now and move on and be a new person. You can bloom into it.
So often, we don't realize how much power we truly have.
You have a better chance of it working out mimicking someone and copying everything they do than taking advice from your parents, like, oh, that'll never happen for you. Oh, you're not a Tony Robbins, or your friends, you'll never make it. They're lucky, they're wealthy, you know? What's going on, everybody? It's Jacob, the skateboard mentor. We are back with another interview with Garold Vallie, here to talk about life, personal development, inspiration, to give you guys a sense of his life, his journey, you know, a little bit of everything we've been through. We have a lot in common. Thank you, man, for coming on and talking to me. I appreciate it.
Well, I always look forward to it, Jacob. You know, we don't talk enough. I will say that. You know, every time we get on the phone, even not on one of these kind of things where everybody across the world can watch us, 100% of the time, when we get to like the end, we're like, we should have been recording this.
Yeah.
Stuff here. And so when we got this set up, I was looking forward to it. And just thanks for having me on, brother.
Yeah, of course. Like you said, every conversation, I feel like it just goes on and on. I can talk to you for hours, man. So you gave me good news. You got a new book coming out, DIFY, Do It For Yourself. So we'll touch a little bit on what to expect from that. I know you're building out a course as well to go along with the book. You know, in the past, we've talked about, if you guys have seen our previous interviews, you know, the mindset mastery that we have with Skateboard Mentor and the Grind Mentor. We have a lot of similarities in the fact of helping people build a foundation mentally, physically, financially. You know, me being Skateboard Mentor, I like to relate skateboarding to personal development, skateboarding to business, and to relationships. It's funny because I went to the park. Give you a quick story. I was at the park the other night. I hadn't been skating for 3 weeks because of a rolled ankle, but I showed up. I'm wearing my NESW shirt, black pants. You know, I walk in and I just start skating. And then maybe 30 minutes later, I went and go grab a drink, sat down. This kid came up. He's like, "Hey, what's your name?" I'm like, "Jacob." He's like, "Oh, cool, man. You taught me a very valuable lesson today." And I didn't even speak to him. So I was intrigued. I'm like, "And what's that, man?" And he said, you know, never judge a book by its cover, because you walked in here and I was like, man, who is this businessman coming in here? Like, who is this guy? And he was like, but you rip, bro. He's like, you were shredding. Like, I didn't even want to skate, you know? And I was like, thanks, bro. I am a businessman. And then we exchanged, you know, Instagrams. I was like, that's exactly what I do, is teach skateboarders how to relate that to business and to relationships. So I thought it was really funny, just from my appearance and not even talking to someone, that I'm just like radiating that energy, because that's really what I want to get out and, you know, cut the stigma of like, oh, skateboarders are hesh and underground and we got to be poor and drink PBRs and have bad habits and smoke cigarettes. Like, yeah, like that's life, you know, hate my parents and I hate my job. Like, I'm totally opposite, where I want to have the financial freedom. I want to travel, you know, be able to do what I want, when I want, with whoever I want, however often I want. And I know that, you know, started a relationship between you and I, being introduced from Alan Butella at Character Skateboards. Shout out to you. But yeah, man, I thought that was really interesting.
Yes, definitely. And Al is a great dude at Character. I'd like to give a shout out to Arrow, his son, because his hockey team just won the national championship, and they were in my backyard and I couldn't get there. They won just like 45 minutes from where I'm at in the Metro Detroit area. So congratulations to Arrow, and you know, I wish you all the success in the world. It's funny telling the story that you did of how, you know, you went to the skate park and the guy's like, who's this, you know, and next thing you know, you're ripping, and he's like, you taught me a valuable lesson. Well, I have a couple of quick stories on that. I used to get the opposite when I was speaking at middle schools and high schools, because I would walk in my skate gear. I'd have, you know, blue Dickies on, a t-shirt, you know, my tattoos, maybe a baseball cap or a beanie. And the principal or teachers would be like, this is the guy that's going to motivate our school, huh? And by the end of the presentation, and I would hang out at lunchtime and get to know the students, by the end, teachers were asking me if I would come and have dinner with them, and they'd be asking me questions of how I could help them out. And so it's really rad when your actions speak louder than this outer shell, or that people prejudge you, and then in a very short period of time, they're willing to go, wait, I might have had an error in judgment here, and maybe it helps them in other parts of their lives as well. It's a great feeling for us because we are being authentic.
Yeah.
That authenticity, it shows and it radiates, and people get that. And we're not trying to pose or these clothes are still comfortable for me, so I still wear them, And so it's a cool feeling, definitely. And that young man showed a lot of maturity, actually telling you about what was going on inside of his head. So what a rad day that had to be.
Yeah, man, I love when people judge me. And, we all judge everybody, right? Like I judged him. I was looking at him like, who's this guy? He had no shirt on, had a pearl necklace around, just very hip. And I'm like, who's this guy, right? And then we exchanged Instagrams. This guy's like Instagram famous with, 50,000 followers, just blown up doing skate clips. And it was a really cool interaction because he judged me. I judged him silently. And then we broke the ice and it was like, wow, when you get to know someone, it's really good. But I like the fact that people are judging me and know, like when you're walking around, know that you're being judged. You are being judged. And I want people to judge me. I want people to call me out because that's just going to better myself. And the fact that he judged me on something where it was literally like what I, wake up and breathe. It's like, great. Yes. I'm so happy. You just judged me on the character that I'm like building. Right. So I thought it was pretty cool. It's like, yeah, keep judging me. Go tell your friends.
Well, and I do have one more wonderful story that goes right along with this. And it's perfect time because, I've been doing a podcast since 2010. And just recently, I'm in a new studio, and it's awesome. I'm at the Woodward Sports Network, and I'm so stoked to be able to continue to bring some of the most exciting guests ever on the planet. We tell their stories. And 2 weeks ago, a show aired, and it was a gentleman named David Newby. And his newest book is called Beyond Billions, and he is a legacy wealth coach for billionaires, right? But I met him 10 years ago in a skateboard park. And everybody was riddling him. He had like Kmart knee pads on and stuff, and he was just skating with his kids, but he didn't fit in at all. And I walked over and I introduced myself, and I just said, gave him a few tips, and I went about my business. But I was just polite to him and cool. And a week later, he showed up at the park, and he was asking if I was going to be there, and I came back, and we skated together that day. And we've been friends ever since. He helped me get my first book written. I went home and searched him on the internet, and this really out-of-place guy at the skate park. Pictures at the Playboy Mansion, Lamborghinis, all this kind of stuff. And everybody else at the park was sort of riddling him and making fun of him a little bit. And I was I try to be cool to everybody because, I don't know. That's just who I am. Like, my friends make fun of me. They're like, you talk and say hi to everybody. Why not? Greet them with a smile, man. You never know who you're going to meet. But with no intention of what can you do for me, just being polite and cool could change your life.
Yeah, man. I went and got a haircut earlier today, and the ladies who's cutting my hair was sharing a story about her dad. He worked with General Motors for like 31 years, and then was transferred to General Motors. Like that whole establishment, Tesla was coming in, and they were like, "Who's this new company, Tesla? We don't want to do this." And her dad was one of the first 100 employees to work with Elon Musk and got to talk to him and build Tesla in the factory. But you would never know that just talking to your hairstylist, or just whoever. But that's, with NESW, our nonprofit, like Now Evolving Skateboarding, we are the entrepreneurs of skating. It's like exactly what you just said. Being at the skate park, go find people and talk to them. Because I've met people at the skate park who are doing, 7 figures monthly that are younger than myself. And it's crazy because you just look at him, you're like, that guy's just a regular skateboarder, but he's some big time guy who's highly successful that probably has some amazing habits that is doing something right with his life. You should probably become friends with. Maybe he doesn't look like the skater or what. Like, I don't look like a skater, but I know I have some value to give to people, and I'm the same way, man. I'm talking to everybody at the park because I want to know who you are. I want to know what you do and what you're about. So then we can create that connection, right?
Well, why not? Why not? Greet people with a smile and say hello. How you doing? How's your day? Because the world is full of people who are staring at the ground, who have a grimace on their face, who aren't happy with where they're at in their lives. And so, with me, I like shaking people's hands. I like saying hello to people, and you never know where they are in their lives. And sometimes that's just what they need at that minute of that day. But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm just trying to practice what I preach, and life's pretty cool, and I enjoy living it. I'm happy to have this opportunity because we get, 365 of them every year, and each one is an opportunity to make the most of it. And so I'm just happy to be alive, and I try to let that resonate out. I think so far it's working pretty well, and some of the most interesting people in my life were met the way we are talking. Just sitting down next to somebody, say, hey, how's your day going? We spark up a conversation. Next thing I know, the guy that I'm sitting next to is responsible for 60% of the GDP of Australia. And we've been friends ever since, and you just never know. But just by being genuine and authentic,
it shows.
It can change your life. And I know I said it a few minutes ago, but those choice meetings that I was just talking about changed my life. They changed my life. David Newby helped me get the first book written. He was just on my show, and I called him and talked to him 45 minutes the other day just about advice on a decision I was contemplating because he is somebody I respect and trust. And it was a chance meeting at a skate park, So you just never know, man.
Well, you said you brought up a good point, like people hanging their head down, unhappy with their life, not wanting to talk to people. I did get some inside access to, some of your courses, what you have on YouTube, and a little bit about what your book's about. So like, I want to ask you, why do you think that is? Why are people unhappy? Why are people waking up like, man, I have to go to work. I have to do this. I got to pay my bills, or just trying to get by day to day instead of living their life?
Well, we get so overwhelmed with the world, with the news, and we all know the last 3 years has just been crazy in the news and in the media and all that kind of stuff. And so often we don't realize how much power we truly have. And the things that are bending us out of shape, the things that are causing us to stare at the ground, are things that we aren't even in control of. But they're affecting us emotionally, spiritually, maybe financially if we let them. But a lot in my new book, DIFY, Do It For Yourself, it's about the work we can do on ourselves. And as we hold ourselves accountable, we start building this confidence within. And now the things that are out of our control, we recognize. That's out of my control. I can't do anything about it, so why am I freaking out? Because I can't even change it. And you either change your mindset towards it, or you just choose to not look in that direction because it's really screwing your life up. And that's what happens to a lot of people. But what I try to emphasize, as you do as well, is we do have a ton of control. If we don't like the way we look, we can take some steps to change that. It takes a little bit of personal accountability. We got to be accountable to ourselves. But as we are, it's like, wow. Like I made a decision that I wanted to lose 5 pounds, or not even a number. Just I want to look better. And after about the 7th day or the 14th day or the 21st day, I encourage people to look at that and go, dude, you made a deal with yourself and you stuck to it for 3 weeks. And now you're starting to see results. In our culture today, we want everything now. And that's why I think, I don't say it's hard, but it may be challenging for some people because they can click a mouse and by the end of the day, something's sitting on their porch that they ordered, and they're looking for maybe a magic pill or for you or I to give them one answer that's going to change it all. And really, all of that is within them. I know for me, I'm just trying to coach them along and let them know they have that power and walk them through some of the steps to get there. And that's pretty much all 8 chapters in the book really build on that. And reminding people that they have more power than they think they have. As you state often, the power is within you. You know, the reason, and I say, the reason you're where you're at is because of decisions you made to get here. Well, let's try to shift some of that decision making and get you to where you want to be. And I want to help you do that. And with DIFY, that's what it starts with the morning ritual. And you're a big proponent of the morning ritual. The most successful people on the planet have a morning ritual, something they do every day so that you start that day on fire. And I'm not saying every day I'm like, hey, this is great, I love it. But I am saying I have 5 things I do in the morning, and I do them every single morning. And that first month, that first 2 months, that first 6 months, the biggest impact that made was that personal accountability. That I made a deal and nobody else knew about it. I'm going to get up an hour earlier. I'm going to do some yoga. I'm going to do some journaling, some meditation. You know, I have my things. But what I gained internally was just as important as what I gained from actually going through those actions and writing them down.
Yeah, man. Well said. Like, I remember, it's making me think back 2019 when I got in a big argument with my family, and I left, and I just said, I'm going to stop living my life for other people. I'm going to stop making other people happy. And I heard, I think it was Tony Robbins said, like, only from positions of strength can you help people. So you have to help yourself first before you can help someone else. And that was, I just put my foot down and I said, I'm done. And I packed my stuff and I left, and I got my own apartment, and I just made it work. I didn't know how I was going to make it work, but I was going to make it work. I remember waking up, I heard, what was it, like Jim Rohn or someone, I just kept, you follow success. Success leaves clues. So I was looking to the most highly successful people that I thought that would resemble my life. So I was listening to, you know, I'd wake up at like literally 4 a.m. It'd be pitch black. I didn't want to get up. I'd set my clothes out right next to my bed, and then I'd go run, and I'd listen to Jim Rohn, and I would play every Jim Rohn to the point now where I can literally recite, you know, Jim Rohn videos at 30 minutes long. And same thing with Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone, you know, and all these other great people that have helped me realize it's me. I have to get up and do it. And like you said, people want it easy. They want it now. They want it fast. They see the nice cars and, you know, just these big people on social media flashing their lifestyle. And they're like, wow, this is nice. I want it. But then they're not willing to do the little things to get them there. They don't, you have to realize that if you want your life to change, like you said, you have to decide and you have to change. And unless you change, nothing's going to change for you. And it's very simple, right? You start with brushing your teeth. You start with the hygiene. You start with making your bed. You start with small disciplines, writing out your goals. Then you can check off. It's super easy to be like, wow, I showered, I brushed my teeth, I shaved my face, you know, I put on cologne. And then you start giving yourself these positive reinforcement in your brain and your own dopamine instead of having to like smoke a cigarette. And now you feel good. And then the days you don't do it, you're like, man, I didn't go to the gym today. And you actually feel bad about yourself because you've been putting in so much work, right? And it's not about perfection. There are days I don't write my goals. There are months I don't write my goals, but it's every day you have another opportunity. And if you should know that if you mess up the past year, if you pissed away the last 5 years, 10 years of your life, that doesn't mean tomorrow you have to waste it, right? Like you can change right now and move on and be a new person. You can bloom into it. And I don't know, man, like, what do you think? Is it people are too soft? They just like, why aren't they willing to get dirty and do the things that it's laid out there? It's in the books, right? They say the average person reads less than 1 book a year, but the average CEO is reading 5 a month, like 60 a year. So if you want to be successful, start by reading more than 1 book, right? Like if you just read 2 books, you're above average. So like, what is it? What's stopping people from doing that?
Well, success rarely happens in a tidal wave, especially in the personal growth perspective of things. And it's those little daily habits. It's the shift in the little daily habits. And you know, I'll bring up the morning ritual again. So many people are like, dude, my morning's crazy. I already don't get enough sleep. They have every excuse under the sun why that doesn't fit into their lives. And that's why they're where they're at right now. You know, it probably didn't fit into my life when I started doing it. But I knew, like you said, success leaves clues. The people I look up to, the Brendan Burchards of the world, the Tim Ferrisses of the world are the guys I like to look to. I like what they're doing. I dig it. I want to see what they're doing. Tony Robbins, another one. See what they're doing. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just making the wheel with my own little hub and my kinds of spokes on it. But it's a very similar wheel that's already been out there. And it's the little things. It's the daily habits. It's you brought up smoking. That's a habit. It's habitual. It's a negative habit, but they picked it up once, and then now it's 2 packs a day or whatever it is. Well, let's do that with success, man. Let's do that with success. People go, I can't meditate. I'm like, try for 1 minute. 1 minute. That's all. I'm a big fan of morning gratitude. And I ask people, I say, take 3 minutes in the morning. As your coffee's brewing, as you're sitting there, before you even get on your social media feed, take 3 minutes in the morning and just be thankful for the pillow, the sheets, that you have a roof over your head, the little things. And you automatically will get a little smile on your face. Your cat, your dog. Gratitude instantly shifts your state to thankfulness. And I'm like, start with the little things. It's not going to come all at once, man. And I'm like, you look at the bodybuilders, and they didn't all of a sudden go, I think I'm going to be on stage, and I'm going to have 32-inch arms, and bam, 32-inch arms there. No, they had to put in the work. And with especially personal growth, it's those little tiny shifts. Most people have spent 15, 20, 25 years to get to the habits they're at today. They're not going to break them overnight. And listening to you, listening to people like me, listening to the people who have lived it, have done it. You have the experience. I have the experience. And this is what works for me. And I'm suggesting, give it a shot, man. Give it a shot. And I think it works with everything. Once people realize, wow, it's that little shift. It's the little shift and that secret sauce, that subconscious mind getting a whole new kind of trust in who you are. Because, again, you stuck to a plan, you laid out, and you did it. You might have did it for 1 day. In the recovery community, it's 1 day at a time, or 1 minute at a time, or 1 hour at a time. And with success and definitely personal growth, it's the same kind of thing. It's 1 minute at a time. If you want to quit eating McDonald's, that 1 minute when you're driving past McDonald's waiting, that could be the game changer because you didn't get the Super McDouble, whatever. That one thing, and he or she could go, I did it. I drove past McDonald's and I didn't stop. And sometimes that's all it takes to build that confidence, to build that trust in yourself that you can make those decisions. And that, of all things, starts a snowball effect. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, maybe it's your health. And you look in the mirror and you look a little better. And you're like, wow, this is really working. Where else can I implement that? Where else can I take small steps? Is it financially? I want a bigger bank account. Well, start with you want to put $1 in the bank every week. And then maybe in a month or two, you're like, I think I can afford $5. And then maybe I can afford $10. And all of a sudden, there's, $1,000 sitting in the bank account. And you're like, wow. It was just those little things. Or quitting smoking. You bring this up often. $7 a pack. If you can bring yourself to quit smoking, that's almost $50 a week. That's, $200 a month. You're looking at $2,400 a year. And it's just from having that, I think I'm going to quit this. And I don't want to say unintended circumstances. What would be the word? The circumstances you weren't thinking of. Mm-hmm. Maybe you quit smoking for your health. And all of a sudden you realize, wow, I have all this extra money in my bank account, and I quit drinking. That was like the craziest one because I was drinking a lot when I was drinking. And I'm like, man, I have a lot of extra money because I'm not blowing it all on booze. And I'm like, I want to get healthy and stay alive. But look at this. I even got extra money to invest in myself or go out and have a good time with my friends or whatever the case is. And so when we start taking those little steps, I think that personal accountability is a lost art. And so I really talk about that a lot in the new book, DIFY, because I think once you start holding yourself accountable and you stick to your word, your friends, your family, they start realizing they can depend on you too. Because if you say you're going to be there, you're going to be there. And if you can't, you're going to be honest with them and say you can't.
Yeah.
And so it is a huge snowball effect when we start holding ourselves accountable. And with everything so out of our control, as I said earlier, the one thing we can control is ourselves and how we view the world, how we view ourselves. And we start jacking that thing up to a positive level, changes lives, and it's changed mine. And I know a lot of people are going to read this book and be able to relate to many of the stories, because I intertwine personal stories in there to back things up. And I think, especially, as I keep seeing more and more people who are reaching out to me, the thing that they really enjoy is the authenticity, that I'm not sitting up here because I read a book and I learned a theory and I'm telling them a theory that I read about. I'm speaking from experience, as you do. And yes, I've read hundreds of books and I've studied for years, but I think living it really changes people's perspective because of the authenticity.
Yeah, you just hit it on the nail. Experience. I think a lot of people lack experience. Grandparents, parents themselves, they grow up in the same town around the same people. Maybe they go away from college and then they go back home. We're too comfortable, right? And you don't grow in your comfort zone. You have to get uncomfortable to start seeing growth. And one thing for me, like I've been to 15 countries. I've backpacked Nicaragua and Costa Rica. I've had machetes pulled on me. I've had the flip-flop stolen off my feet, crazy stuff where I'm not saying go put yourself in those positions, but I've also experienced like waking up on the beach and, having hundreds of hermit crabs of all sizes just crawling on me. And then I'm picking them up like, wow, this is where hermit crabs live, instead of just seeing them in a store, or scuba diving with sharks. Like whatever the experiences are, just go out and experience. I've seen little kids that are like my nephew's age huffing glue on the streets. And when you start seeing both the bad and good experiences, that's when your mind is like, wow, my life is good. And get into the whole gratitude part where, every morning I'm in the shower, I'm thinking, thank you, God, I woke up today. Like I'm grateful that I am in a hot shower right now. And then I'll turn it to cold because they say to do the cold shower first. I'm like, man, why am I in a cold shower? I'm too comfortable. So I'm even hard on myself. But, I was complaining about the Wi-Fi the other day, and then I had someone come install better Wi-Fi. But it's these types of things that we have it good here, from roads to sidewalks to Wi-Fi. Everybody's got an iPhone and access to everything. We got the Uber Eats. You think there's Uber Eats in Leon, Nicaragua? No, there's not. There's barely paved roads, if that. There's no skate parks out there. And that's one of the reasons why I want to go back, because I just wanted to help people. And it's like, man, I've got a great life. And I don't know why people complain so much about the life that they're living. And it's like, oh, poor me, or the gas prices, or the government. And they put blame on everything else, but don't want to take, like you said, accountability on themselves and start asking themselves better questions, right? Like, what can I do today to better myself? Like, who can I add value today? What can I give today that I've never given before? What can I see today I haven't seen before? Everything. If you start asking yourselves better questions, that's when you start changing things. I know you mentioned in one of your videos where you were like, you probably wake up and you're on like auto tune or autopilot, where you brush your teeth with your same hand. You're like, your whole rituals in the morning, they're just zoned out, and then you don't even realize what you're doing. But if you just stop and switch that, wake up on the opposite side of the bed, literally, and then immediately make your bed, or start doing those, what are my 3 things I'm grateful for? Something small, medium, and big. And I think it's important, like you said, just ask yourself better questions, because most people are sitting here wondering why, or like, poor me. You hear this in AA a lot, right? Poor me, poor me. It's like, well, pour me another drink. Are you going to cry about it? If you're going to just keep blaming everything else, go drink, either do it or don't. Most people are sitting in this gray area. And I'm a very black and white type person, where I'm either doing it or I'm not. Right? Like I wear the same black shirt, the same black pants. I'm a very simple person. I eat the same healthy foods. If I'm going to cheat, I eat the same bad foods. I like what I like, and I don't like what I don't like. And that goes for people as well, where I've gotten to a point now, from learning, hearing Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and Gary Vee and all these people speak, and reading books and podcasts. absorbing other people's, successful people's knowledge, now I get to say, I'm not accepting negative people in my life. If you've got a sister or a friend, or you're in a bad relationship, like, you have to know what is it that I'm not going to accept, and what is it that I'm going to accept in my life. I think that's the first step in making a change, because, what is it? Most people don't know that they just are having these subconscious things like work. They hate their job. They're going to work every day like, fuck, I hate my life. You can change it. Go get something. I would much rather make less money doing something I absolutely love than working a place for 40 hours, 50 hours, sometimes 2 jobs that you just dread. And then you go home and put all that baggage on your family. It's like, do something you love. Like, there is no reason why your life shouldn't be full of happiness. And if it isn't, it's your fault, no one else's, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, in my experience, people think change is so monumental. Like, they're looking at Mount Everest, maybe they're at 250 pounds. They're like, I want to get down to 140. And so that's all they're thinking about. I'll never get to 140. That's 110 pounds. I could never do that. So where I'm trying to make a shift is say, no, it's those little daily habits, man. It's the little daily habits that stack up. And because they think it is such, I could never be a millionaire. Why not? Why not? Why can't you? And that leads me to my next thing is that I encourage people to embrace the Socratic method. Socrates, everybody hated him because he was such a jerk to talk to, but he got to the root of the point. And Tony Robbins, the same kind of thing. People are like, you're that motivational guy. You're that inspirational guy. He's like, no, I'm the why guy. I'm the why guy. Because he asked you why. I have a whole chapter on it in the new book about asking yourself why. Because by the age of 35, 80% of most people's lives is done on autopilot. So why not ask why? Why do you, like in the book, why do you brush your teeth the exact same way every day, with the same coffee cup, with the same this, with the same that? I know there's a comfort in that. But if you want to make a change, you can't keep doing the same things you were doing yesterday. And it starts with those little tiny things, those little incremental changes you want to make. Get up 5 minutes early. I could never meditate for an hour like the Dalai Lama. Meditate for 1 minute. Shut it off for 1 minute. I could never skateboard like you, Garold. Do you own a skateboard? No. Well, let's get you a skateboard and let's roll down the street. I'll have a great time just rolling down the street with you. And as you know, of course, when I look at magazines when I was a kid, I saw Tony Hawk and Lance Mountain and all these legendary skaters, flying around Del Mar Skate Ranch and doing all their crazy stuff. Yes, I thought that was cool and I would love to do that. But I knew that the minute I stepped on my skateboard, I couldn't do it immediately. I had to take the steps to get to that point. And life is like that. But patience is not always the easiest thing for people. And faith is often a difficult one. And that's where I think, especially my new book, it breaks that down to simplify some of those things. Keep it simple, man. Keep it simple. Don't overthink. And I overthink everything. But, I've been getting better at keeping it simple. And don't overcomplicate it. We often do. We overcomplicate our lives. And so if we can get people to realize it's not Mount Everest, it's this little change done over a course of time, and that's where the monumental change comes from. It's that taking the time to do 10 push-ups. It's about a year ago, my physical therapist who was working on my hips, he's like, why do you do 36 push-ups? And I said, well, I started with 1 about 8 months ago, and then it went to 2. And then I'm like, 2 is pretty easy, and then it went to 3. And then I'm at 36 right now. I can drop and do 36 push-ups, no problem. Now, today it's at 42. And he's like, that's such a random number. And I said, you just got to start with 1. And you do what you can do, man. And that's the way life is. We start with these little tiny changes, these little shifts, because nothing's going to change unless you do. And, I think people are still looking for that lottery ticket, or click mail me a new life on Amazon. That's not quite how it goes.
But Jim Rohn, I'm always going to quote this guy. He says you can't go from the second grade to the 10th grade. You just got to go through the grades, and you have to trust that you will be better prepared by going through those from, when you get to the 10th grade, that you're well equipped with the tools and the knowledge to get through the 10th grade. Because if you're in second grade and you go to 10th, you're not going to make it. And like you said, faith is a big part of it. Take religion out of it, right? I mean, my mom was Catholic. I was born Christian. I got, Jehovah's Witness in the family, like so many varieties, Jewish friends. So take religion out of it. It's like, why do I have to be a Christian or associate with a certain religion to follow the 10 Commandments? That you can learn valuable lessons from these books and from the knowledge, right? But at the end of the day, you have to have some sort of faith that it'll work out for you if you do the right things. And you're not going to go to someone, and a lot of people do this. They take advice from the wrong people, right? They're going to like an electrician asking for plumbing advice, right? You're not going to tell the hair person to like set my mic up and do my tech stuff. So for me, it was like, what do I want to do in my life? And that question hit me so much with, high school of like, what are you going to do? What kind of degree are you going to get? You got to go to school, get a job, have a title, make X amount of money. And I'm like, I want to be me. And then I started learning about these highly successful people, and you hear about billionaires and millionaires. So I dove to the success, right? There's no job title or degree that will make you $300 million, or $20 billion. I'm sorry to tell you, but it's not. You can be the biggest doctor, lawyer. Maybe some of them are making a couple million, but they're not this mass amount of wealth. You get from like rich to wealth. And that's when I started focusing. What does it take to be wealthy like these people? Why is it that Jim Rohn passed away with $500 million net worth, and he lived his life sharing his message, teaching people? Earl Shoaff was his mentor. If it wasn't for Jim Rohn, now Tony Robbins was mentored by Jim Rohn, and now look at Tony Robbins. So in my head, it's like, okay, do I have a better chance at either listening to my family, if this is what I want, mass success, freedom, I want to impact, I want to change lives, I want to help people, I want to be me and do whatever I want, right? They did it, they're doing it, so I'm going to figure out what they're doing. And you just, like you said, it's from one book or one podcast, the little things. Hey, write your goals out every day, and then take your goals long term, 5 years from now, and then what does that look like for 1 year? And then that 1 year goal, what does it look like in 6 months? And then what do you have to do in 3 months? What does it look like in 1 month, 1 week? Because they say don't start your day until you have it finished, and don't start your week until you have it finished. If you're not prepping for the meeting, if you're not prepping for a job interview, like shaving your face or taking a shower, you have to prepare for success. And unless you're prepared, they say the success will come and go, the person that's unprepared, right? So you really have to start doing the little stuff and just follow the people. Like if you want to be a doctor or you want to be a biologist, go find the top biologist and eat what she's eating. Go to the same gym that she's going to, right? Like do the things that they're doing, and it will work out for you. You have a better chance of it working out mimicking someone and copying everything they do than taking advice from your parents like, oh, that'll never happen for you. Oh, you're not a Tony Robbins, or your friends, you'll never make it. They're lucky. They're wealthy. People talking about like, you see Dan Blazarian, and he's like this big poker player, but his dad was filthy rich. Like at some level, you still have to put in effort to build your own community and make yourself successful. So yeah, maybe Trump got some money from his parents, right, to start. But I don't think Trump would be who he is if he didn't have drive or discipline or motivation or whatever. So it's like, what do you want to do? And really, the people listening, ask yourself, what do you want to do? Find people, 3 to 5 people, not too many, right? You don't want to have too many mentors, and then go mimic what they're doing. And I like the fact that you were talking about the video that I watched earlier. It was about habits and, like you said, these daily rituals. But people are probably sitting there asking themselves like, damn, Jacob, Garold, like, yeah, it's easier said than done. Like I've been smoking for 30 years, or I've been doing this, or I have the same habits. It's hard to quit. Like no one said it was easy, but you have to replace it with something positive, right? So what are some ways where people stuck sitting here thinking in their head, like, yeah, these guys just, it's much easier said than done, but now I have to go act on it. And you said it's when they're going to do it when it's easy, right? Sometimes it's easier to go to the gym and wake up, but I think it's most important the days that you don't want to go that really determine who you are.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more, because I will tell you, there's a day or two every week when I get up and I don't feel like, doing my yoga. That electric blanket feels a whole lot better. But I know my body will be thanking me later in the day because I went through my routine in the morning. And that's as we start making those shifts, it's when we see results that help us continue and help us get to that habitual portion of whatever the positive thing we've shifted in our lives. But getting through those first couple of weeks, that's when looking to mentors. That's when, for me, it's listening to a Brendan Burchard podcast and hearing him. It's Brendan Burchard. He's like, top 5 in the world as far as coaches. But hearing that he has gone through the same things that I have and that you have and that our listeners have, he has been through those things. And I like to have to think, well, if he can do it, I could probably do it. And then as I start picking up and it didn't change me. I don't want to be Brendan Burchard. I'm just cherry picking some of the things from his talks that work for me. Even speaking to you a few months ago, you sent me a podcast because I wanted to hit on this because you said you never quite know where that impact is going to come from. You just sent me a podcast. We were talking about something, and it was, what's his name?
Dean Graziosi. I think I know where, yeah.
That podcast, right? And it had to be either October or November. You sent that to me. I listened to it, and he talked about how he writes his book. And I started mimicking that a little bit. And he's like, I got a voice recorder, and I do this and do that. So I started doing that, and it didn't quite work for me. But what I did gain from that is every single day, because I will tell you a little secret, I will tell you all a little secret. My new book, I've been wanting to write it for the last 5 years. And December 1st, I made a deal with myself that I would write 1,000 words a day. And some days I wrote 750, some days 1,100. Wednesdays I ride my skateboard, so it didn't get written on that day. But I'm like, I'm going to write 1,000 words a day. Every day at 7 o'clock, I'd sit down at my laptop, and I had 3 chapters going. And whatever one was resonating with me at that time, I wrote about that. That book was done in 5 weeks. 5 weeks it was written. Because I sat down and did it. And, there was plenty of days I'm like, I don't feel like freaking writing today. But I held myself accountable, and the results have been amazing. But it was that little thing. And some days it didn't come easy to sit down and write. But I I only wrote 500 words today. Oh, well, I did it. I did the best I could in this hour and a half. But you never know when you're going to hear something, when you're going to see something that's going to cause you to want to make a shift in your life. And hopefully our viewers today are watching us and going, you know what, that makes sense. That one little nugget Jacob said made sense to me. I'm gonna shoot him a DM, or I'm gonna say, hey, thank you. Hey, appreciate it, because I think being of service to others, the people we've mentioned here, the Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn. One thing I love about Jim Rohn is I bet if you saw him on the street, nobody would know he is a freaking multi-billionaire, because that dude was so humble and he carried himself that way, in my opinion. That's the way I always viewed him. And even Tony Robbins, I mean, he is a juggernaut on stage, but it's always fun to see him in his everyday life just having a good time, smiling and goofing around. And I love those parts of it. And with technology nowadays, people can see us having this conversation. And this is us. We're not trying to put on any BS. This is who you get every day if you run into me on the street. And some days, maybe not so talkative, because I have bad days just like everybody else. And I have tough times that I got to struggle through just like everybody else. But it's how we choose to approach those struggles and what we do with that. And I try to use the difficulties in life as a springboard to somewhere else and something more positive, or again, chalk it up as an experience that I learned something from this today. And I ask that question sometimes when life gets too rough. I'm like, what are you trying to teach me? What do I got to learn? But it really is. It does boil down to perspective too. Our personal views of ourselves definitely skew or accentuate the world around us, and the little steps that I'm talking about in the new book help us to improve our view of ourselves as we look in the mirror, which in turn will improve your view of the world and your relationships and everything else, and it just continues to compound.
Yeah, man. Well, it just made me think when you said look at yourself in the mirror a couple weeks ago, well, maybe a month ago, 5-6 weeks max, right? I was looking at myself in the mirror and like, I'm not fat, but I was just looking at myself like, man, I could do better. And I could do better. Like, go to the gym. Why am I not going to the gym? I got all these excuses, right? Because it's not like I'm a superhuman or something. I have the same bad days, whatever. And I just made the decision to go. And now I'm like 7 pounds of muscle heavier, looking better than I was. And now I look at myself and I'm like, all right, yeah, you could keep going, but this is good. And it's weird how success, you write your goals out and you have all these things that you want in your life, right? But it never happens the way that you intend to. And it comes in ways that you can't expect it. And that's where that faith aspect comes into play, right? Like I remember when I was, running at 4 a.m. in the dark, listening to Jim Rohn and thinking about what do I want? I like skateboarding. I like traveling. I like helping people. And then I had this idea with NESW and a monkey with a compass. And I wanted to reinvent the compass where every time someone saw NESW, they thought never eat soggy waffles, but like now evolving skateboarding worldwide, or they see a compass and they think us instead of a map. And, that was once a thought. And then the design came with the board. And then it was like, now I've got 3 graphics and now we've donated hundreds of skateboards. And I feel like I'm just getting my feet wet with a lot of the stuff I'm doing, but it's nice to realize that I had no idea that I would have these 3 graphics or that I would be partnered with Swap Out Plus Foundation and donating skateboards specifically to foster care. I didn't know that I'd be connected with the people I'm connected with, like you. It was just hitting up Alan at Character, like, hey, man, this is what I'm doing. I need boards. Like, can you help me? And then all of a sudden he's introducing me to you. And now we're talking and good friends, years later. So it's like, and we don't know where this will go and who's going to listen to this and maybe take some advice and go. And again, just do something different that they have faith in that's going to help them in the future. Not really sure how it's going to help them, but they know that's the right decision because damn well when you're doing something that's not going to help you, right? Like, let's just call out the bullshit. Like I know when I'm being lazy. I was doing it today, and I was comfy. I was in the AC. I'm in Arizona, so it's hot as shit outside. So I'm like, man, I'm too comfortable. I'm scrolling on Instagram, and then I see a post, and it just slapped me in the face. It was like, this is your daily reminder to stop scrolling and go do something with your life. And I was like, okay, yep, this is it. I'm putting my phone down, I'm going to the gym, and then I went to the gym. I made a post for Instagram, and then I prepped myself and got ready to talk to you. And it's those little reminders, just little things in life that are telling you, hey, you're on the right track. And only if you're pushing yourself or if you're not pushing yourself. And you brought up a good point that we're pulled aside by people, by our family. We have distractions everywhere, whether it's TV, the present, we have the past and the future. And the most important is the future, where you attach that why to it, right? We talk about like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? What's going to get me out of bed to say, wow, like, let's do it. Eliminate the distractions of the past. You can't go back to the past. Limit the people, find your 5 closest friends. You are who you hang around, those types of things. Like this isn't rocket science. So ditch the past, learn from it, have better people, and then have that why that's going to pull you into the future. And then the stronger it is and the more clear it is of where you're going and what you want to do, the better it will be and the stronger it'll pull you, and get you up out of bed.
Simon Sinek talks about it a lot. The most successful long-term companies. He has a great book on and I don't recall the title offhand, but it's about the why. And, he talks about how different companies, they embody their why. It's not about the bottom line. It's about the company's culture and their why. And that goes for us humans as well. When you start asking yourself why, why am I doing this? Why are we doing this video? I know why I'm doing it. I'm hoping there's one person somewhere that sees it and they go, I can do that. And it changes their life for the positive. That's why I love doing this. I have a big enough why with my company, Purple Heart. Purple Heart has a big enough why that even if I'm screen printing shirts in my basement and selling none, it still means something to me, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And NESW is very similar because the why is big enough that on those tough days, those days you don't want to work at all, the why is going to carry you through that. And in our day-to-day personal lives, it's the same kind of thing. I met this guy at the gym, and he was a little overweight. I may have told this story before because I freaking love it. And he was a little overweight, had acne and thick glasses, and he was working hard. And I'm like, I talk to everybody again. So we're sitting in the sun. I'm like, I get to know him. I said, why are you doing this? And he said, I want a girlfriend. I never had a girlfriend before. And I'm like, okay, whatever. That's your first thing. And we became, friends. Well, I didn't see him for about 4 or 5 years, and then I saw him again because I wasn't at the gym, and I went back to that particular gym, and I saw him again, and he looked great. I mean, he had grown up a little bit more because when I met him, he was 18. Grew up a little bit more, was in pretty good shape, and I'm like, no way, what's up, man? And we started talking, and I said, you look great. Did you get that girlfriend? He's like, no. I'm doing good, man. He's like, I'm going to college. I got a great job. But it built his self-confidence where he could accomplish these other things. And even though his catalyst in the beginning was a girl, it really, I truly believe it taught him that personal accountability, that he can stick to his goals, that he could do this. And now all of a sudden he was super successful in his early 20s and had a great job and whatnot. But his why at the beginning, the why had shifted a little bit, but still for the positive. And I love that kid. I'm stoked about it. I've told that story on stage many a time because sometimes we start out. I started skateboarding because I love skate because it was fun. And it grew into a something I loved. I truly loved. I knew I would ride a skateboard the rest of my life. And I was fortunate to take it to the level I did. But my why was enjoyment. And it still is that enjoyment. It's almost therapeutic. You can tell me that I'm going to die tomorrow, and I can go ride my skateboard for 1 hour, and I won't think about tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I'll think about my skateboard. And we could get into conversation about meditation because skateboarding is sort of like a meditation. It's a you are singularly focused on one thing, riding your skateboard, and that's all meditation really is. And but yeah, when you start dissecting your why for anybody watching, you put on a pair of jeans, and you're like, why am I putting on these jeans? And when you go, that's just the way I did it yesterday, I don't think that's a viable answer. I need a better why, not just that's the way you did it yesterday. And when you start thinking about those things throughout your day or even your friends, and you're like, why did they do that? Why did they act like that? And it gives you a little bit of a different perspective on your own life and the outside world.
Yeah, man. It makes me think about the friends I had in high school and middle school, and now the friends I hang out with now, like the people I want to surround myself with, because one, they're a lot smaller, and two, I'm thinking, man, I should have hung out with those other people that I was like either bullied or made fun of, or like, man, I would never hang out with that guy. He's a nerd. The guy who's walking to the bus stop reading a book every day, and I'm like, man, all this guy does is read. And now I'm sitting over here thinking, man, I should have started reading earlier in my life, right? So, but this has been great, man. A lot of good stuff. I'm happy to have you on. I do want to ask, like, where can people find your book? Where can people find access to you, Garold Vallie? If they want to get more information, if they want to access your courses, if they want to just touch base with you, access your social media. So, where's that at?
The StokeIsReal.com is sort of the umbrella website that's housing everything. The book is not available yet, and when it is, I'm actually still in negotiations with a publisher. So I usually self-publish. I mean, I was all into self-publishing, just doing it myself, and I'm talking with a publisher right now. So when it does come out, I'm not 100% sure. You'll be able to get it through the Stoke is Real. I'm certain of that. But yeah, you can go there. There's contact information there if you'd like to book me as a speaker. I've spoken to hundreds of middle schools, high schools, and corporations. It's always fun, and you can find all those on YouTube. Just search Garold Vallie, and if you're writing it down, it's Garold as in dog and Vallie, V as in Victor, Allie. Most people, Garold's not a very common name, so the spelling always gets butchered. But yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. But the Stoke is Real is where you can find a ton of information. And in the future, they'll be able to see everything you and I are working on together as well.
Awesome, man. Thank you again for coming on here and talking. I know this is not going to be the last time you and I get together and light some inspiration in people. So I'm grateful to have you as a friend, man. And for everyone listening, watching, I hope that you took something out of this. You know, there is a lot to be said for experience alone and what you've gone through. And like you said, just so authentic to hear you and just life, what you've lived and where you were to where you are because of things like whether it's skateboarding or addiction or, you know, people, influences, whatever. And I think people watching can really relate to that and then take something with that and say, wow, you know, now it makes sense. And if there's just one thing I can do tomorrow, if there's just one thing I'm going to change, or you know what, after this, I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to stop hanging out with this person. That's really what it is. Cause we're going almost an hour into this, but like you said, if you could just take one thing out of here, that's a success. And that's why we do this stuff, right? That's my purpose for posting content. I don't just post content for nothing or just have these conversations for no reason. I genuinely believe that more people can and should do more and become more so that we can all make an impact, you know, and we're doing that right now. So I appreciate it again, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. I love these, and yeah, anytime, man.